Couple quick things before this video starts. Firstly, a massive thank you to Chivo for editing this video. He has edited all of the King Gizzard reactions up to this point and is going to be doing the rest of them, so I greatly appreciate it. Secondly, this reaction is taken from a couple months back from one of my viewer music submission live streams, hence the different background. We do these streams every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 3 PM UK time, where you can basically stop in, send music, listen to new stuff, and chat with other music nerds. So make sure you stop in if that sounds like something you're interested in. Another thing I want to mention here is that in this reaction, I only listen to the extended versions of the songs. I don't listen to the shorter first half of the album. I have listened to the shorter first half of the album since, so at the end of the video, I'll come in with my updated thoughts on that. But yeah, besides that, like and sub, we just hit 2K, now we're going on to 3K, and yeah, enjoy the video. The Silver Chord, that was the one released right after PetroDragonic Apocalypse, I believe. And what I've heard about PetroDragonic and the Silver Chord is that they're meant to be like yin and yang albums, where they are completely different, but also the exact same, if that makes sense. That's what I've heard the two albums described as. That's right, see, my King Gizzard lore knowledge. I'm a genius. The reason I know that is because I watched Middle 8's video on King Gizzard's later releases on, yeah, I watched the Middle 8 video literally last night, and that's what he said about these albums. The timing could not be more perfect. But yeah, I'm excited, because I re-listened to PetroDragonic recently. I was literally listening to it while I was playing Fortnite. It's such a good gaming album. It's so heavy. It's so technical, it's so progressive, it's so fun. It's a perfect gaming album. I fucking love that album, definitely my favorite King Gizzard. But yeah, the Silver Chord, 7 tracks. There's like extended mixes of all the songs on like disc 2, like 20 minutes, 12 minutes, 10 minutes, 11 minutes. Yeah, I'm assuming we're only listening to the first batch of songs, I'm guessing. Well, actually, yeah, because if we were listening to all of them, that would take up the entire request. But yeah, track 1, Theia. Let me get the album up on Album of the Year as well. Oh, we're doing the extended mixes? Oh, yeah, it says extended mixes. My bad. Alright. Theia extended mix. It's their longest song, 20 minutes. Yeah, I don't think I've heard any songs from them longer than 20 minutes, yeah. This is interesting, but I'm not sure I'm seeing the full picture just yet. It's an interesting blend of sounds, and the lyrical content is enticing. Yeah, this is connected to PetroDragonic. It literally says a Motor Spirit here, combined with Theia. Interesting. So the two albums are actually connected. This could not be further from the sound of PetroDragonic. PetroDragonic is like a proggy, thrashy hellscape of an album. And then you got this, which is so weird and quirky and vibrant. But the decision to connect the two albums is very interesting. That sounds like Kraftwerk. Oh, it literally is like ripped straight out of PetroDragonic. That's the exact same like way he says it in the song as well. Oh, I see. Okay, so this is meant to be connected to PetroDragonic Apocalypse in that they are going to be lyrically similar, structurally similar, just with entirely different aesthetics. It's what? Okay, so I'm guessing this is going to be like the exact same album, just wearing a completely different outfit type situation, you know what I'm saying? Is that what they're trying to go for with this? Because that's sort of what I'm getting from the first 8 minutes here. Glasses make me look delectable. Alright, that's one way of putting it. The reimagined as dance and techno version, exactly. Yeah, that reimagined as house and techno thing. They even use some of the same bass lines. That's cool. One of the songs is called Gilgamesh. Isn't that the villain from the Smurfs? I swear Gilgamesh is the villain from the Smurfs, isn't it? I know Gargamel's his name. No, similar. I was nearly there. Gargamel, yeah. Goober. Bro, I've not seen the Smurfs in like forever, okay? The Polly Future House remake, that's so fucked up that they decided to do Polly. Jesus Christ. What's a goober? It's a word to describe something silly. Like a goofy goober is a silly individual, you know what I'm saying? Alright. Most underrated Gizzard album, you reckon? What did Fantano score the album? That'll dictate whether it's underrated or not. He gave it a 6, yeah, it's probably underrated. 6 out of 10, but he loved the title track. We reached the halfway point of song 1. We've still got 6 more songs that are all longer than 10 minutes after this. This is literally their Swans album. Chat, this is King Gizzard's Swans album, just with more of like electropop. Progressive electronic, neo-psychedelica, synth-pop, acid techno, electro-disco, and electronic dance music. T, of course, I don't like them. Those are the genres this album's listed on. Progressive electronic music is like the Swans of Giz music. Yeah, King Gizzard are always like switching up their style. Like, they have their like folky stuff, they have their metal stuff, they have their microtonal stuff. That's like choosing a character in a Sonic game. You already do. You already violate me in the chat. Your job is watching me, yeah? Well, you can't exactly see me. I've got the curtain down. No, Corey, don't dox us. No, bad. There you go. Is that America? Yeah. Why do you guys want to dox me so bad? That is true. I'm surprisingly, like, enjoying this a decent bit. Like, as this has gone along, this is growing on me a lot. Like, I don't think I'd come back to this. But as, like, a piece of, like, an album experience, I feel like this is a very interesting experiment that the band have taken here. Interesting. Still got another 40 seconds of song to go, actually. I'll hold my thoughts. You know, despite the fact that this song is longer by a couple minutes, this doesn't really feel as long as a song like The Dripping Tap. I would say The Dripping Tap feels like a longer song to get through than that song does, which I find very interesting. That's impressive for Theia. Like, that's a very impressive feat to reach. But I will say part of that is because I find the song to be less interesting, and I feel like the phases that this song go through sort of meander a bit too much in certain spots, so it doesn't feel like the song is quite as full as a song like The Dripping Tap is, if that makes sense. Yeah, that song had a lot of very high highs. Like, I feel like it, despite what I just said, it genuinely does feel like an interesting way of going about a 20-minute King Gizzard song. The ties into PetroDragonic Apocalypse are so interesting because this album, stylistically, could not be further from that album. That album is like a prog metal, thrash metal, meant to sound literally like a dragon setting the world on fire and like people burning alive and stuff. And then this is like just cute, fun, silly electropop. It's a very interesting contrast, despite having ties to that album. Yeah. I'm torn on what to score that. Low 8, I think. Low 8. Sounds about right. I don't know if I'd come back to it all that... low 8. Flat 8. It's like an 80 out of 100. That's my final score for that, I think. I don't feel like I'd return to it that much, but I do feel like there is definitely a situation where I would find myself listening to that casually. The Silver Chord. No lyrics on this one. Chord is a word? Need to go to Genius for... Alright, I'll get Genius up. Oh, does it mean chord as in like... Yeah, right. I always thought the album was Silver Chord. Like a musical chord, you know what I'm saying?
Stay tethered to the cosmic sacrum. Safe within the battle playground. Euphrates that fall up to the sky while the sun gets chants your name. You'll never scream. You have no breath, no refugee between your
Weird vocals and very interesting lyrics. The apostle of conscious dying whispers to me, keep on trying, stay tethered to the cosmic sacrum, safe within the bardo playground. You'll cry tears that fall up to the sky while wrathful gods chant your name. You'll never scream, you'll have no breath, no refuge in between your death. Huh? Despite how weird this is, I'm loving this. The storytelling here is so interesting, and the vocal effect I feel like is actually adding to this. At first it was a little annoying, but now that I'm actually getting into the track, it's like, okay, this vocal effect is actually adding so much. Supposed to have a connection to Supercell in some points. Oh, so is it meant to be like each song is like a mirror of the other? Oh, they're each 7 tracks. Oh yeah, the last song on this is called Extinction. The last song on PetroDragonic Apocalypse is Flamethrower, which sees the extinction of humanity. I see. I see. Makes sense. Songs that sound 5 minutes each. The first song was 20 minutes. This one's 12 minutes. All of the songs on here are over 10 minutes. The extended mix, at least. Oh wait, yeah, the next verse. Hold on. Yeah, the next verse is just straight up describing PetroDragonic. Drink the gas in the house of fire, suspender of the sky, who hammered out the earth, firm horns to set the oceans ablaze, foremost creator of none is greater, ye illumineth the tempest, ye illumineth the tempest. That's just straight up describing PetroDragonic. Oh yeah, this bit literally just sounds like an electronic version of PetroDragonic. Like straight up. That's impressive. That's so impressive. To be able to create the same atmosphere with an entirely different aesthetic. That's impressive. Drink the gas in the house of fire. Was that not a lyric on what song is it? Superstar. A direct callback to PetroDragonic Apocalypse. Oh, Motor Spirit, where Stu sings. Oh, drink the gas. Yeah. Oh, transition into set. Set's the one off of the main album that I've heard. Fantano said that that was like his favorite song, right? That's what he said. He said that that one's like incredible. Because I agree with him. That was 12 minutes of incredible world building, incredible storytelling, fantastic ties between the previous album and this, and also a great way of setting you into the same atmosphere whilst having a completely different aesthetic and instrumental palette. That was beyond impressive. I will admit there are a few moments where it drags a tiny bit, and that does bring it down a little for me, but that was easily like the best song I could possibly ask for from this project. 9.5. That was really good. Alright, set. I have heard the normal mix of this song that's only just under 4 minutes. We have a 10-minute version of it here. Okay, it is in 4. I was confused. There was a bit that felt like it was in 7, but it wasn't. I found where my confusion is. It's because it's a bar of 8 and then a bar of 6. So it sounds like it's in 7 because it evens out to 14. But no, it's a bar of 8 and a bar of 6. I'm guessing, because we have the PetroDragonic lyrics coming up with the Segura is repeating Converge. I'm guessing that's meant to be like the reality of the situation, like slipping through the cracks. Like this is meant to be like a cover-up of what's really happening. But then the addition of these lyrics, like where it's repeating Converge here, is like reality slipping through the cracks. Oh, they just straight up, yeah. Great transition. I'm going to be honest. I don't get why this album isn't as well received as their others. Maybe it's just because I'm listening to the extended mixes, and these are like full, complete versions of these songs, and people are basing it off of the original mixes. But these extended mixes are great. they feel like they have the same scope and the same size that PetroDragonic did, just in a completely different skin, I suppose. Yeah, I'm really liking this. I don't mind the length of these tracks that much. I feel like, sure, they drag in certain spots, but they more than make up for it with the incredible, like, sound blending and the incredible world building that they're setting up here and the incredible ties to the previous album. And not only that, these songs are just catchy as hell. Like, Set in particular. That's gonna get... I can already tell that's gonna get stuck in my head. Yeah, that's definitely one I would return to. Maybe the shorter version of the song over the longer version of the song. But yeah, that was... Yeah, I don't get the worst reception of this over their other albums. That one's like an 8.2 for me. Yeah, I legit have no clue what it is that people... Maybe it's because this came out right after the other album, and people were expecting something a little more intense, something a little heavier, and this is not that. This is such an unexpected turn after that album, I guess, but... I don't know, I think the execution is really solid. I will say this is probably the weakest open to a song we've had so far. Yeah, this definitely seems like it's going to be the weakest song up to this point at least. Yeah, this one just feels a little too cluttered. It feels like it's trying to do too much at once. But it's sort of... This drop's okay. It's sort of getting lost in what it's trying to do. Like, it feels very unfocused. It's an interesting switch up. Like, the song has its moments, it has specific things about it that I'm enjoying. It's just... the bigger picture of the track just sort of feels like it's not really coming together properly. We're gonna do the lying back test, see if that improves the song. Yeah. Oh yeah, the lyrics here. Eclipse the sun, moon, fire flickered and danced with hues of orange, red, and deep burnt blues. Snakes slid by just out of sight, lizard, and bat, take the one all night. Around the fire they circled slowly, the lofty minds, a chant did grow. That definitely feels like it's tying back to PetroDragonic again. That's the thing I'm, like, most impressed with this album so far. It's the thing I'm, like, pulling the most from. Like, the fact that they're tying it together in such a seamless way. I was talking about the witchcraft, tying back to the witches as well. That song definitely wasn't bad, it was just the weakest so far. That one had the most moments where I could sort of see the complaints about this album. The intro was very rocky, it took until about like the halfway point for me to be fully like locked in with the song. The writing on that one, a lot of it did not connect, particularly in the first half as well. That song felt like it was the one that dragged the most too. But still, I feel like the blending of sounds is still very nice. The tying back and the parallels with PDA is still super impressive and so well done. And I feel like the execution of the track as a whole, especially with the super strong second half, is still solid. It's just, I would not return to that song casually, like, at all. I would give that one, like, a flat 7, I think. Gilgamesh. Just like when it showed up on, Omnium Gatherum, the rapping on this album is just as awkward here as it was there. It doesn't fit in the slightest. Even the writing here is losing me. Oh, Gilgamesh is the extended name for Gila, for the Gila monster. I see. I love this one. I was about to say, I love that part for how like atmospheric it is. It's an okay switch up. Yeah, as we're going throughout this album, I'm starting to see a little bit of where people's problems with it are. For as cool as the parallels between this and PDA are, as cool as the way that the story is progressing in the same way is, I feel like some of the sound palette does get a little bit bland as this album's progressing, and the songs are starting to feel like they drag more going into the back half. I will say I liked that one a little bit more than the previous track, but not by much. It's just like around the same level. It's like a 7.2 for me. Also, I have to mention, towards the beginning of that track, you had the rapping. And I had a problem with it on Omnium Gatherum, and I have a problem with it here. It's so awkward. It really feels like it just comes completely out of nowhere, and it does not make sense in the slightest. But yeah, that song, it still had its strong moments. It still had an interesting progression. It still had interesting lyrical themes that do bring it up to being good. But I feel like it's not reaching its full potential, if that makes sense. Like, it's got so many... It's doing so much right, but it's the little things that it's getting wrong that are bringing it down a decent bit for me. Next up, Swan Song. Feels so long. Yeah, it definitely does feel like a 70-minute album, you know. that meant to be the sound of the dragon in the background? Because this next verse is talking about the dragon coming down. You know, I will wait till the song's finished. I'll say what I was gonna say. The biggest sin this album commits, and at first I was loving this, and I'm now at the point where I'm like, why are they doing this? The biggest sin this album commits is reminding me so much of PetroDragonic Apocalypse. Because that album is like their best album, and this is like, it's literally directly tying itself to that album with repeated lyrics. It's telling the same story as well. It is literally that album again, just with the opposite sound palette. And but I would just rather listen to that. I would never pick this over that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I much prefer the way the story is told on that album. I much prefer the prog metal sound they go for on that album. And I even prefer the pacing of that album as well. Like, basically everything about that album is superior to this. And while this is an interesting experiment, I would never come back to it over it, you know, over PetroDragonic Apocalypse, you know? That song was my least favorite so far. That one felt like it just sort of, like the song just sort of happened. Like, there wasn't much I pulled out of it. I was paying attention, I just don't remember much of it. Like, I found it difficult to stay locked in with the song. There were very few moments that I found to be very memorable, if that makes sense. It's not bad. It's still a well put together track. It's still like competently produced. The writing is still solid. The tying back to the previous album is still impressive. It's just that song of all the songs so far is definitely like the toughest to get through. That one's a low 6, like a flat 6, I think. Extinction, last one. They said they were going to try and mix both albums live in a cool way with transitions. That's kind of cool. Yeah, that would be interesting. I feel like the two albums being combined in a live setting would be really cool. I actually really like this as a closer though. It does feel like it's tying everything together in a really interesting way. This actually does feel like a satisfying closer. Oh yeah, yeah. Wish they would have ended with some metal parts on this. So that would be a cool way of tying it together. Oh, that synth in the right channel is matching the vocal melody from Flamethrower right now. That's very subtle, I like that. This sounds like it could be the conclusion of the song, but we're only just reaching the halfway point. Reference Flight B741. Oh yeah, just like Rats into the Sky, Flying to the Moonless Night, Mirage City on the Ridge. Huh. Interesting. Does this mean Gizverse confirmed? All the albums are connected. It's all one big story. Yeah, every album is connected. Exactly. If Gizzard took a year off to make an album, it would be worth it. Maybe? Gotta hear them all at once. Exactly. I gotta listen to all 27 albums back to back. Okay. That was 70 minutes of King Gizzard. 75 minutes closer to, actually. What a disappointing ending. I disagree. I feel like the ending is actually kind of solid. I feel like it ties everything together in a decently satisfying way. That song drags the most out of any song on here, like by far. But I feel like the actual elements of the track are strong, and it's an interesting closer and an interesting parallel to Flamethrower on PetroDragonic Apocalypse that I feel like it's a stronger way of closing this. Still not great. As a song, it drags. It really feels like it does not warrant its 12.5-minute length. But hey, still, solid closer. Flat 7. The originals feel too short and the extended feel too long. I feel like just have this be the same length as PetroDragonic Apocalypse. Imagine how cool that would be if this was like, if all the songs were the same length, literally telling the exact same story just with like a different sound palette and changed lyrics. That'd be really interesting, instead of having it be like way too short version of the album and the way too long version of the album, you know? I don't know. Anyway, that was the extended mixes of The Silver Chord. This is a very interesting album, because I've already heard this album in the form of a prog metal, thrash metal crossover in the form of PetroDragonic Apocalypse, and that is the better album. The storytelling is much more compelling on that album. The sound palette is much more interesting on that album. and the pacing is much better on that album. That is King Gizzard's best album, in my opinion. And this is one of their weaker ones. This album feels like it gets pretty repetitive once you get beyond the halfway point. It feels like the lyrics get gradually less and less interesting. It feels like the blending of sounds is, while still cool, is nowhere near as impressive as PDA is. And I just don't know why why would I ever choose to listen to this over that? I'm getting the same story being told to me, just in a much cooler, much more intense, much more like well-paced and well-groomed package. It makes this album feel not necessarily pointless, but it makes it feel like I'm never going to return to this, except to maybe give the shorter versions of the songs a try. Yes, I think this is a good album. It's good, but when it's just an electropop version of PDA, it feels disappointing because I'm hearing just a worse version of the same album, sort of. It's different enough, but it's telling me the exact same story, and it's like, if I want to listen to this concept album, I'm just gonna pick the better version, you know? Let's figure out my score. 7.5. Okay, so in terms of the extended mixes, my thoughts are essentially the same. I think that it is one of the weaker King Gizzard projects. It is a little bit bloated and definitely feels like it could have been trimmed down a little bit. But yeah, most of my thoughts on the songs are the same. I'd give it still around the 7.5 range. Maybe it'd go up or down by a couple points. I'm not sure exactly what an updated score would be. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, I listened to the shorter mixes of the songs, and I have to say that the shorter version of this album is weaker than the extended version, which I did not expect in the slightest. The shorter version just kind of feels incomplete. A lot of it feels so sloppily paced. It feels like there isn't any real flow, or none of the songs have really any time to breathe. Like, it just feels so rushed. The only thing I can say it has over the extended mixes is that I think that the shortened version of Set is, like, better than the extended mix. I think the shorter version of Set is an absolute heater. But yeah, everything else, it just kind of felt like the album went by a little too quick. Like, that's something that I can at least say is a positive, is that it's very short. It's only 28 minutes roughly in terms of the shorter mixes. But yeah, I kind of wish that they were able to find a middle ground between the two, because a 40-minute album of this I think would work really well, but having one that's 28 minutes and one that's like an hour and a half just doesn't really work in my opinion. My score for the shorter version of the album would be like a high 6. I don't know in terms of like a decimal score. I wasn't keeping track of my scores when I listened to it. But yeah, it'd be somewhere in like the 6.7, 6.8 out of 10 range. I think it's okay. I think it's enjoyable enough, but I'd never really come back to it, especially when a better, longer version of the album exists, and especially when a better version of this album in general exists with PetroDragonic Apocalypse. But yeah, besides that, thank you all so much for watching this video. Massive thanks again to Chivo for editing this. I greatly appreciate it. Check out the links in the description to like my Discord, my album of the year, my other channels, and my Twitter if you haven't. All the stuff is linked down there. Like and sub if you haven't as well. We are now on our way to 3K. Thank you all so much for 2K. And yeah, I'll see you all whenever I next stream or upload. Bye bye.